What's up everyone, Lion Roar here, and we just got our next Bloodcraft champion in Bloodline Heroes of Lithis. It is Molten Wind, so I'm gonna do a full breakdown and testing. But first, download Bloodline Heroes of Lithis, a mobile RPG action fighting game where you can marry your champions to create new and unique hybrids. Use the link in the description to start with some free stuff, including gold and diamonds. See you hopefully soon. Alright, so Molten Wind is a Bloodcraft champion who you can only get through Guild Conquest and is a hybrid between the Akuna clan and the Askavarj clan. So make sure you have one of each of those at least, in addition to the points you need to acquire Molten Wind, and then here you go, you got Molten Wind. Now let's take a look at the skills. I always like to look at the passive first because it tends to be the first thing that affects the battlefield. And this passive is very brief. We rarely see this few words on a passive. Is that good or not? Well, let's take a look. Ultimate skill damage taken is reduced by 20%. Of course, that's going to be higher if you level the skill. And active skill damage taken is reduced by 10%, which of course goes up whenever you level the skill. So this is kind of like having an extra honorable trait on this champion. So if you put honorable on it and you've got this going already, it should theoretically be a very tough champion to kill. However, I have a worry with, actually I have a couple worries about this passive. I'm going to talk about one of them in just a minute, but I want to point out right away that because we've seen so many champions released recently that have a lot of text with their passives, we've seen a lot of really powerful passives recently. So this better be darn good to be this few words. And I'm not sure if it is, because I mean, you could just have honorable on a hero and go with a different type of passive. So I'm just worried it's not doing enough with the passive to keep up with the pre-ultimate portions of battles where a lot of damage these days is taking place. Now, because this is preventing it, maybe that's to help balance out the meta a little bit and get through that pre-ultimate phase into the ultimate phase. But you're also going to notice something else. I did not level this trait. No, I did not forget to level the trait. I have a second worry about the trait, and it has to do with the other skills, and that's why I didn't level it. I have a theory about that, but you have to understand the other skills first. Let's take a look at the active skill. Summons a fiery underfoot moving area for 6 seconds, during which the caster's crit rate is reduced by 44.3% or higher, of course, if you level it. This is a drawback, or at least the way that it's written. So either they worded it mistakenly, or we actually have a drawback on a hero, which we don't see too much. Before I even read the other text, the only other heroes in this game that really seem to have drawbacks are like the Parade clan, which if you've watched my tier list videos, you know I always rate at the absolute bottom, and Male Lux, who also gets rated at the bottom because they actively hurt their team. Now, this is not actively hurting the team, but is hurting itself if it actually does what the text says. Not through damage, but just not being able to deal more damage. However, maybe they feel like they have to do this in order to balance the next set of text. Every second, the caster deals true damage equal to 371.4% of strength to enemies in the fiery area and generates a shield of equal value lasting 6 seconds. So true damage, of course, is really good. Maybe they felt like true damage plus crit is too much damage. So they had to do the drawback. At least I hope that's what's going on here. We're gonna have to see when we actually test it out. But then you also get the shield here. So in addition to this like basically extra honorable passive we also have this shield that can be created. Enemies staying in the zone for over 4 seconds are stunned for 2 seconds, ignoring control immunity. Awesome. We get some great CC and it can't be prevented. I like to see that. So now, just if you're keeping score, I have 2 worries about the passive. I haven't talked about one of the worries yet. I'll get to that. I have a worry about this active skill, which is that it has a drawback, which we don't typically see on champions. Hopefully the drawback is to balance out a really powerful effect. Now, the ultimate. Uses fiery power to form 1 stack of spiked armor for 7 seconds. Gains some percent, 35.7% life steal is what I have right now. And reflects 64.3% or higher, of course, if you just keep leveling that up. And that's a lot of damage taken back to the attacker. The caster damage taken not reduced. So here we get something unique. And this is the kind of thing I like to see. So life steal, first of all, helping him to gain HP back. So not only is he tough with that basically honorable passive and getting a shield, but should be getting life steal back. And then reflecting a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage to reflect. After forming, the spiked armor releases 3 waves of fiery slash forward, dealing 742.9% strength damage to enemies in the path. The enemy can be hit by fiery slash only once. So there's a limit to that particular damage, which I think is interesting. And I kind of wish they didn't do that, but that's fine. The thing that gets me really excited about this ultimate is really the life steal and the reflecting damage. Now, this is where it ties back to the passive, and I have a theory, and it's what worries me about the passive. The passive is preventing damage. The ultimate is reflecting damage. I worry that if you prevent too much damage, you're not going to reflect much back. Right? Think about that. The passive and the ultimate seem to conflict, right? Am I wrong? Like, I mean, we haven't tested it yet, but I will be honest. I went and played some matches before filming, and the damage is not what I expected it to be. And there's a reason that is. Not only because of the passive skill, but also I may have built him wrong the first couple times I tried. Let's look at the traits. I put energetic, brutal, and fierce on him. So vanilla traits, they're all very good traits in the meta right now. Notice I don't have honorable on here. I had honorable on him because I was like, wow, think about how tough he's going to be if he's got that passive and he's got honorable and he's got a shield. But then he wasn't doing like any damage. So it made me wonder if honorable, the trait, was actually conflicting with the ultimate and preventing damage, so not enough was reflecting back. So I took honorable off in favor of fierce. So now I'm hopefully going to deal max damage through brutal and fierce, but I used energetic on this build as well because I actually want damage to be dealt to him. I want him to take damage so that he reflects it. So in order to do that, I need to have a bigger body here. So that's why we now have energetic on here. And that is also why I chose not to level the passive skill. Let's dive into the arena and test this out a little bit. I'm going to start out against a meta team with a pretty similar power level. And this is my third best team. And it's the one that I like to use, Female Tide Raiser, to really group all the opposing heroes in one spot, so I can take advantage of AoE effects on the battlefield. And in fact, you can see here, I've got 3 really good ones going on with the male Almat, the male Ho, and now Molten Wind, creating an area of effect space on the battlefield. So hopefully I group all the opposing heroes together and deal a lot of damage. Let's see what happens here with this one. And early indications are I'm the one who's being dealt damage to first, so I'm behind. I'm hoping these area of effects. So there goes the Molten Wind ultimate. Let's see if that can ultimately take the opposing team down. I am having trouble with their spider on the other side there. So that's really interesting. And look at that. The Molten Wind died. I was not able to kill the opponents fast enough. And I technically have more power. It's not much. I've got 186 million. They have 185 million. But that didn't really impress me. Let's see here. Molten Wind did a little bit more damage than Male Ho. They have similar vigor. Male Ho is a hero that does do a lot of area of effect damage. And I will tell you, this is the best performance I've seen so far from Molten Wind as I've used him. That damage is a lot better than previously when I had honorable on it and had leveled up the skill. So I think that the passive skill and honorable are taking away from what he does to deal damage. And you're going to have to choose. Do you want a tough hero or do you want one that deals damage? And maybe that's what they're going for, is making us have a choice. But he certainly didn't help my team win there. And usually that's a really synergistic team that doesn't have a problem with that. Let's go against that same team since it's so evenly matched. And maybe I'll put Molten Wind up front just because it's supposed to be tougher. I'm just going to rearrange things here a little bit to see if this helps at all. I'm not sure if it will. Sometimes moving champions around makes a difference. Now remember, last time they took a chunk out of my life early. It's happening again. Then my heroes did a really good job taking a chunk out of their life. It didn't quite kill them and they came back and killed me. Let's see if we can get over that hump this time. And it does look like we're doing a little better. But here, we're getting stuck again here. It's going to be quite a task taking down their Male Water and Sun. And I will tell you what, if Molten Wind... Oh, there we did it! I was going to say, if Molten Wind can't help me take down a Male Water and Sun, then it's certainly not going to be a meta hero. And look at this! Look at this! This time, Molten Wind did a fantastic job. But that's a little bit of an inconsistent outcome, that in the first match he did okay damage, but it wasn't like a lot of damage. This time he out damaged everybody, it looks like even the opposing Male Water and Sun. Is that right? That is right, yeah. So it's looking like we have an inconsistent kind of special skill damage here, and it's definitely looking like you don't want to put honorable on this champion and probably not level that passive skill. We're going to run this team again, and this time I'm going up against a team that is significantly higher power level, just to see what happens. I'm not expecting to win, especially with the close matches we just had against evenly matched teams, but, you know, maybe that first one was an outlier. Nope, not looking like it. Oh my gosh, but look, Molten Wind is left, so, you know, there is a toughness to Molten Wind. Let's see what the damage looks like. Now, see, with Molten Wind being the last one standing, I would hope that he would have done more damage than my Scarlet, who died earlier, but he didn't. Now I'm bringing out my top team and seeing if he can hang in this tier of play. I am going against a team with a higher power level. I did put Molten Wind in the back to take advantage, hopefully, of the Ho trait, which increases the strength of the heroes in the back. And it does look like we are, well, hopefully going to win this one, although that opposing hero gained a lot of life back and made it interesting at the end. Okay, so not a ton of damage, but it is the second most amount on my team. Molten Wind got there. So he can hang with the top team, at least in that particular scenario. Now we're going against an opponent with some of the top meta heroes in the game. And this is always a tough opponent to face. So we'll see how we fare here. It's pretty even at the beginning. Look, we got a huge shield on Molten Wind right now. Look at that gigantic shield. And I think a lot of how much damage Molten Wind does probably depends on the reflex, like how much damage he's taking. And so that's why I'm thinking Energetic is a good idea, because he's going to be dealt a lot of damage if we're not taking advantage of that passive skill and honorable. So let's take a look at this one. Interestingly, my male spider, the Silken Crown, he did the most damage this time. Don't ask me. I have no idea why that would be. But Molten Wind and, you know, honestly, my Selphos does deal a lot of damage. Like, it's misleading. I have her vigored really, really highly, and Molten Wind's maybe like half as much. So that's okay. That's looking pretty good, actually. Now I'm going up against the famous Fierce Daughter, who is just absolutely the litmus test for whether a new champion is good or not. I am so evenly matched with Fierce Daughter, and honestly, she's been passing me in power level a lot recently. It's really difficult for me to beat Fierce. And so when I can beat her, it's because I've got the top level heroes built the right way. And if Molten Wind can't hang here, then there's a problem with Molten Wind. let's take a look at this particular match. You can see that I build my teams similar to how Fierce builds her teams. I did put Molten Wind in the back. Molten Wind does move up a little bit. Look how much Molten Wind moves up. Am I gonna win? Oh my gosh. What? And look how much damage female Selphos did. That's an incredible amount of damage. And people underrate female Selphos. They just can't quite convince themselves that she's good. I'm selling her right now. She is so good. Female Selphos is why I won this, not Molten Wind. However, Molten Wind did deal, I know it looks like a tiny bar, but that's a good amount of damage. You know, if there were potential CC effects in there too, like the stun that couldn't be prevented and things like that, that does add value to the match. I'm actually really surprised by this outcome. I'm gonna run this one more time just because, like, I kind of feel like that was an outlier. Like, there's no way. I certainly don't think Molten Wind is why I won that one, and I'm surprised I won that one. Look, yeah, see, my Melt Water and Sun and Molten Wind are like gone immediately. That was such an outlier. I don't know. I'm not convinced that Molten Wind. Look, 0 damage this time. I'm not convinced that Molten Wind is helping me win against Fierce. So that leads me to believe that Molten Wind is probably not a top tier hero, but if built right, can be pretty good. And built right means making sure you're not preventing damage so that you can deal a lot of damage. But then at that point, the skills are kind of conflicting with one another and it feels like a waste, doesn't it? Now let's do a little bit of Valley of Conquerors, and oh my gosh. Squirtle Squirt is at the top of the tower right here, or the gate I should say, and that doesn't usually bode well for me. Squirtle Squirt is like one player in Valley of Conquerors I can never seem to beat. And I have to do my best just to even, like with my top team, even eke a victory out. And oh, this isn't looking good. I did just get a Surge of Life there, but I don't think I can overcome their Romulus. Or did I? What? But I don't have... But Molten Wind is gone, so now we don't really get to test him out here. All right, let's try this again and hope that our Molten Wind stays alive so we can get a little better testing out of this. This is gonna be a pretty close match here. I am underpowered compared to the other team. And Molten Wind is dead. I might even win this, but I can't adequately test without Molten Wind. And I'm actually going to speed this up here since we're not really even going to get to see Molten Wind here, but I want to see what the final stat is. Even though I won that, that's a little disappointing. Molten Wind really didn't do anything that match. And this is one of the fears that I had, is at the very highest tier of competition. I'm not sure Molten Wind's going to hold up, but he is looking like he could be a good, like, Team 2 or Team 3 kind of champion. Or if you're pretty new to the game, sure, he can be on your top team. Absolutely. But I'm fighting at the highest tiers of Valley of Conquerors right now. And he's not helping my team. All right, continuing on here, we do have another gate to try out, and let's just hope that Molten Wind can stay alive here for us to test him out. All right, this one's looking good, and that was a supposedly more powerful team, so that was nice. Okay, and we do have a lot of opposing teams at this particular gate. Here's another enemy who's evenly matched, a little bit higher power level than me. I always say supposedly with these because energetic as a trait gives a lot of HP, makes the power level look higher than I actually think the team is as far as lethality goes. But hey, we're doing a great job here. That was a like 30 million more powerful team. All right. Yeah, here's another like 30 million more power team. Look how much the female Selphos damage does when she's built right and she's highly vigored. She is awesome. She gets some early damage in there before ultimate skills go off. You know what? This is going pretty well. There's another over 300 million power team I just took down. This team should be no problem. And Molten Wind staying alive. He does keep getting his shield there. One thing I'm wondering is... Oh my gosh. I'm getting wiped out here. One thing I'm wondering is, does his shield prevent reflect too? I'm uncertain about how the reflect is actually working here. And yeah, in this one where my team got wiped out, Molten Wind didn't really do anything there. So yeah, I think my conclusion with Molten Wind is gonna be that he's a great hero. I mean, he's good. There's power creep in every game, and so I think he's keeping up. But he's not a top tier hero. I don't think he can stay in my top tier team. I certainly do better with my other setup with like Romulus or even Corbett. And I kind of use them interchangeably, and female Ho. My teams always seem to do better with female Ho in them, but like those are three I kind of play around with when I'm trying to see if I have a better composition for my top team. I think he's just barely gonna miss the cut for a hero like that, which means he's a good hero. But for, I think, a lot of the top tier players, it's probably gonna be team 2 or team 3. And you can probably act accordingly with that. If you're a newer player, have at him. If you were able to get him, he could probably be your top team for a while. So anyway, that's gonna be my conclusion with him. I don't have PvE to show you because my guild kills bosses so fast now. I don't even have time to jump in there and test them out. So we're just gonna have to go with that, some PvP, but that's really where I wanted to see him anyway. And I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoy videos like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification, and I will catch you in the next one.